Poor mother sells her bicycle to buy food for her baby twins. But what the young billionaire does is unbelievable. The wind cut her skin like blades of ice. Katie pushed the old bicycle down the sidewalk, her arms trembling under the weight. It wasn't just the cold, it was the exhaustion, it was everything. The two babies were wrapped against her chest in a makeshift sling, tied on her back with knots she already retied 3 times a day. Blonde, their light eyes half closed, sleeping despite the irregular sway of their mother's steps. Their pink lips moved every now and then, as if they were dreaming of something good. Katie wished they were. Every step felt heavier than the last. The sidewalk was uneven, full of potholes and cracks. The bike's front wheel rattled, making an annoying metallic noise. She stopped for a second, just to breathe. The cold air burned her lungs. She looked at the bicycle, old and worn out, with crooked handlebars and nearly bald tires. The blue paint was peeling, revealing the rust underneath. The chain creaked with every movement, threatening to break at any moment. But it was all she had, or rather, all she had left to trade for something of value. Katie adjusted the sling around the girls and continued. The street was almost empty. A few people hurried past, huddled inside their coats and staring at the ground. No one looked at her. No one stopped. And she preferred it that way. She didn't want pity. She didn't want judgmental stares. She just wanted to solve the problem. The pawn shop was on the corner. Its faded sign swung in the wind with a sharp creak. The display window was dirty, covered in old posters and yellowed tape. Inside, dim lights barely illuminated the shelves crammed with forgotten objects. Katie stopped in front of the door. She took a deep breath. She adjusted the girls against her body, feeling their warmth against her chest. It was the only good thing she felt right now, the only comfort. She pushed the door open. The bell hanging above it tinkled, announcing her entry. The sound echoed in the heavy silence of the shop. The man behind the counter didn't even look up. He was hunched over his cell phone, his reading glasses slipping down the tip of his nose. He tapped at the screen with quick movements, completely oblivious to her presence. The shop smelled of mildew, old cigarettes, and something sour that Katie couldn't identify. The crammed shelves went from floor to ceiling, old radios covered in dust, clocks stopped at random times, stringless guitars leaning against the wall, rusty toolboxes, broken dishes. Everything in there had a story. Everything in there had been important to someone once. Katie leaned the bicycle near the entrance, careful not to knock anything over. She approached the counter slowly, her steps making the wooden floorboards creak. "Excuse me?" The man sighed. A long, tired, irritated sigh. But he didn't look at her, he kept tapping on his phone. Katie waited 5 seconds, 10, 15. "Excuse me," she repeated, a little louder. This time he looked up. His eyes were small, sunken, without any trace of sympathy. He looked her up and down, sizing her up. His gaze stopped on the babies for a second before returning to her face. "What do you want?" His voice was gruff, impatient, as if she were interrupting something important. Katie pointed to the bicycle near the door. I wanted to sell this." Her voice came out weaker than she intended. She cleared her throat, trying to sound firmer. The man glanced quickly in the bike's direction. He didn't even stand up, didn't go to check it up close, just looked over his shoulder and returned his attention to his phone. "I don't buy junk." Katie felt her chest tighten. His words felt like a punch. "But it works," she insisted, taking a step forward. "It just needs a few adjustments. It's a good bike. It just needs maintenance. The tires can be replaced. The chain, too. The frame is strong. There are no cracks." The man didn't even blink. "I've already got 3 just like it in the back." He pointed vaguely toward the back of the shop, where piles of things accumulated in the dark. "It's no good." Katie swallowed hard. She felt her legs grow weak. One of the babies stirred against her chest, whimpering softly. She adjusted the sling, tightening it, as if that could give her strength. "Please," her voice trembled now. She hated this, hated sounding weak. But she had no choice. "Buy the bike." The man finally took off his glasses and really looked at her, but there was no compassion in his gaze, only irritation. "Look, lady, I don't know what you want me to do." He spoke slowly, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "I'm not buying that thing. It has no value. Got it? None." Katie pressed her lips together. Her eyes burned, but she blinked quickly. She wouldn't cry. Not here, not in front of him. "I need to buy formula for them." The words came out in a burst of quiet desperation. The silence that followed was worse than any answer. The man just slowly put his glasses back on and went back to his phone, as if she weren't there, as if she hadn't said anything, as if the babies didn't exist. Katie stood there for a few seconds, waiting, hoping he would change his mind, hoping he would look again, hoping for anything, but he wasn't going to change. She turned her back, grabbed the bicycle again. Her hand trembled as she held the handlebar. She pushed the door open and left. The bell tinkled again, a sound far too cheerful for the situation. The door slammed shut behind her. The cold cut into her again, stronger now. Or maybe she was just feeling it more. The wind blew straight into her face, bringing involuntary tears to her eyes. Katie stopped on the sidewalk. She closed her eyes for a second, just one, just to try and pull herself together. But when she opened them, nothing had changed. The bike was still there. The babies were still hungry, and she still had no money. She looked down at the girls. Their eyes were open now, looking up at her with that innocent curiosity. Light blue eyes, pure fae, understanding nothing of what was happening. They didn't know their mother had no money. They didn't know the formula had run out that morning. They didn't know she was desperate. They just looked at their mother and trusted her. Katie took a deep breath. She wouldn't give up. She wouldn't let them go hungry. She would find a way. She always found a way. She started pushing the bike again, slowly, one step at a time, not sure where to go now. Across the street, Dylan was stopped in traffic. He saw everything, not by chance. He had been stopped there for a few minutes, waiting for the light to change. But the light had already changed twice, and he was still there, engine running, foot on the brake. He saw her go into the shop. He saw her come out. He saw the way she held the babies. He saw the old bike. He saw her posture, upright despite it all. He saw everything. His car was a black BMW, flawless, gleaming even under the grey sky. The leather seats smelled new. The illuminated dashboard showed all the information he wasn't paying attention to. 0 speed, outside temperature 39 degrees, music playing from a playlist he didn't even remember choosing. Dylan gripped the steering wheel tightly. His knuckles turned white. He should move on. He had a meeting in 20 minutes, an important meeting, with investors, with contracts. With big money involved, he had a whole life waiting for him on the other side of the city, a life that didn't include stopping to help strangers on the street. But he couldn't take his eyes off her. Katie started walking again. Slowly, every step seemed to take an immense effort. She pushed the bike, the babies in her arms. Her head was down, but not bowed. There was dignity there, something he hadn't seen in a long time. She didn't look back, didn't ask for help, didn't stop to rest. She just kept going. Dylan felt something strange in his chest, a growing pressure, an unease rising in his throat. It wasn't pity, it wasn't charity, it was something else, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Something that reminded him of when he was still human. He looked at the dashboard clock. 19 minutes. He looked at her again. She was moving away now, turning the corner. Dylan turned off the engine. He opened the door. The cold hit him like a wall. He zipped up his expensive coat, locked the car with a beep, and crossed the street. Quickly. Before he could change his mind, Katie was a few yards away when she heard the footsteps behind her. Quick, determined steps, getting closer. She turned immediately, alert. Her hand tightened on the bike's handlebar. Her heart raced. Dylan stopped. He saw the fear in her eyes and raised his hands slightly, palms forward, like someone trying not to spook a wounded animal. Sorry, he said quickly. He hesitated, searching for the right words. I saw you leaving the shop. Katie stared at him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, well-dressed, a dark grey wool coat, clearly expensive, clean dress shoes, not a scuff on them, A neat haircut, clean-shaven, a watch that probably cost more than she made in a year. Everything about him screamed money. She took an instinctive step back. "I don't want anything." Her voice came out firm now, protective. "I know." Dylan shook his head quickly. "That's not it. He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. "I saw you with the girls and I thought, I can help." Katie frowned, pure suspicion in her eyes. "Help how?" Dylan pointed in the opposite direction, where there was a grocery store on the next block. "Let's go to the store. You can get whatever you want." The silence returned, but this time it was different, heavy in a new way, tense, full of unasked questions. Katie kept looking at him, studying him, looking for something, some sign of danger, some hidden intention, some reason to refuse. "Why?" she finally asked. Dylan blinked, surprised. "What? Why do you want to do this?" He opened his mouth, closed it. He didn't have an answer, not one that made sense, not one he could explain without sounding fake or condescending. "I don't know," he said, honest for the first time in a long time. "Gosh, but I want to." Katie kept looking at him. 5 seconds, 10, searching for lies, searching for traps, but she only found sincerity. She took a deep breath. "I just need the formula." The words came out firm, proud. She wasn't going to accept charity. She wouldn't take more than she needed. Dylan nodded slowly, understanding. "Okay." They walked side by side to the grocery store. Dylan didn't try to take the bike. He didn't offer to carry the girls. He didn't try to make small talk. He just walked next to her, in silence, respecting her space. The grocery store was almost empty. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a cold white glare on everything. The floor was damp from a recent mopping. It smelled like disinfectant and fresh bread baking in the back. Katie went straight to the baby aisle. She didn't hesitate, didn't look at other things, went straight to what she needed. She picked up 2 large cans of formula. Her hands were still trembling slightly, but her face was firm. Dylan stood behind her, watching. Not out of morbid curiosity, but with something like respect. At the checkout, he paid without saying anything. The cashier, a gray-haired older woman, looked at Katie, then at him, then back at Katie. But she didn't comment. She just scanned the items and handed him the change. When they went outside, the cold hit them again. Katie held the cans against her chest, along with the babies. They were heavier now, more concrete, more real. "Thank you." Her voice was quiet, but firm, sincere. Dylan shook his head. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." She faced him now, looking him straight in the eye. "You stopped." He didn't understand at first, but then he did. It wasn't about the formula. It wasn't about the money. It was about him having stopped, about him having seen her, about him having cared when no one else did. He didn't know what to say. "Where do you live?" he asked instead. Katie hesitated. The suspicion returned for a second. "It's not far. I'll give you a ride." She was about to refuse. He saw it in her eyes. Saw the resistance, the pride, but then one of the babies started to cry, a low, tired, hungry cry, and Katie seemed to crumble inside. All the weight returned at once. "Okay," she agreed, defeated by exhaustion. The car was warm. The heater was blasting. Katie sat in the back seat with the girls. She adjusted the sling, checking if they were comfortable. They stopped crying almost immediately, lulled by the warmth. Dylan drove slowly, following her directions. Left, right, straight. 2 more blocks. The house was in a simple neighborhood. Low-rise apartment buildings, worn-down facades, narrow streets with old cars parked every which way. Kids were playing on the sidewalk despite the cold. Clothes flapped on clotheslines. Music played softly from somewhere. Dylan pulled up in front of a small duplex. The paint on the facade was peeling, revealing the brick underneath. The gate's railing was rusted. One window had a cracked pane, mended with duct tape. Katie got out with the babies. Dylan got the bike from the trunk and leaned it against the gate, careful not to let it fall. She stood on the sidewalk, holding the cans of formula as if they were gold. "Thank you," she said again, and this time there was something else in her voice, something beyond gratitude. For stopping. Dylan shoved his hands in his pockets. He didn't know what to do with them. Take care of them. Katie smiled. It was a small, tired smile, but completely real. The first genuine smile of the day. "I always do." She went inside. The door creaked as it closed. Dylan heard the sound of the key turning in the lock. He stood there for a few more seconds, looking at the house, listening to the silence of the street, feeling the cold that didn't bother him anymore. He got back in the car, started the engine, but he didn't drive off. Something had changed. He couldn't explain what, couldn't name it, but he felt it. In his chest, in his breath, in the way the world seemed different now. Less empty. He looked at the dashboard clock. He had already missed the meeting, and for the first time in years he didn't care. Dylan couldn't concentrate for the rest of the day. He was sitting at the conference table, surrounded by executives in suits, charts projected on the wall, numbers being discussed. Someone was talking about profit margins, another about expansion. The voices blended into a constant hum he could no longer follow. He stared at the laptop screen in front of him, but he didn't see anything. He saw Katie. He saw her hands shaking as she held the bike. He saw the way she looked at the pawn shop owner. He saw the way she held the babies, as if they were the only thing that mattered in the world. Dylan. He blinked, looked up. Everyone was looking at him, waiting. "Sorry, what?" The CFO frowned. "I asked for your opinion on the acquisition proposal." Dylan looked at the papers on the table. Numbers, contracts, things that should make sense, things that always made sense. "Looks good," he said automatically. "Let's move forward." There was an awkward pause. People exchanged glances. Dylan never approved anything without questioning it, without analyzing it, without challenging it, but today he just wanted to get out of there. The meeting finally ended. Dylan went back to his office, closed the door, sat in his leather chair and swiveled to look out the window. The view was impressive. Skyscrapers, grey sky, the city stretching to the horizon. He had worked for years to get this office, this view, this position. And suddenly, it all felt empty. He picked up his phone, opened his messages, nothing important, work notifications, automated emails, invitations to events he didn't want to go to, no one asking how he was, no one calling just to talk, no one. Dylan dropped the phone on the desk and ran his hands over his face. What was happening to him? He had everything. Money, success, recognition, a comfortable life, a solid career. Why did none of it suddenly matter? He closed his eyes and saw it again, the babies with their light eyes looking at their mother. The way Katie smiled when she thanked him. Not a big smile, just something small, sincere, real. When was the last time someone had smiled at him like that? Dylan opened his eyes. He needed to work. He had reports to review, emails to answer, decisions to make. But he couldn't. Everything seemed meaningless now. He tried. He spent the rest of the day forcing himself to focus, reading and rereading the same paragraph, writing and deleting replies, pretending he was functioning normally. But he wasn't. When he finally left the office, it was already dark. The parking garage was almost empty. He got in his car and just sat there, hands on the wheel, without starting the engine. Silence. Always silence. He started the car and drove home. His apartment was in a modern building, all glass and steel in the most expensive part of the city. The doorman greeted him. He nodded without looking. He went up to the 23rd floor, opened the apartment door, more silence. The place was immaculate. Designer furniture, minimalist decor, everything in its right place. Everything perfectly tidy, everything lifeless. Dylan dropped his keys on the kitchen counter, opened the fridge, looked inside, restaurant food in plastic containers. Mineral water, nothing homemade, nothing made with care. He closed the fridge without grabbing anything. He went to the sofa, sat down, turned on the TV. Some random movie was playing. He didn't pay attention. He just let the sound fill the silence. But it didn't help. He kept seeing her, Katie pushing the bike, the babies sleeping against her chest. The small house, the peeling paint, the rusty gate. She had so little. And yet there was something there, something he didn't have. Purpose, meaning, love. Dylan turned off the TV. The silence returned, heavier now. He lay down on the sofa, staring at the white ceiling, thinking and trying to understand what he was feeling. Why a stranger on the street had affected him so much. It wasn't pity. He was sure of that. It wasn't about feeling sorry for her. It was about seeing something real, something true, something he had forgotten existed. Dylan couldn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling, tossing and turning, thinking, questioning, feeling an emptiness grow in his chest. When the sun began to rise, he had already made a decision. He needed to see her again, not to help, not to save her, not to feel better about himself, but to understand, to find out what she had awakened in him, to find what was missing. Dylan got up, took a shower, got dressed, but this time he didn't put on a suit. Jeans, t-shirt, a simple jacket. He looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. He looked more human this way. He grabbed his keys and left. He stopped at a different grocery store, bigger, more well-stocked. He grabbed a cart and started walking down the aisles. He didn't know exactly what to buy. So he bought the basics: rice, beans, pasta, oil, sugar, coffee, milk, bread, fruit, diapers, baby formula, soap, toothpaste. Simple things, essential things, things she probably needed. The cashier smiled at him as she scanned the items. Someone special? Dylan hesitated. I think so. He put everything in the trunk, 3 full bags. He got in the car and drove. He knew the way by heart now, left, right, straight, 2 blocks. The neighborhood was busier in the morning. Kids going to school, people waiting for the bus, shops opening, life happening. Dylan parked in front of her house. He sat there for a minute, just looking. The peeling paint, the rusty gate, the cracked window. It didn't look like much, but there was something there. Something that pulled him in. He grabbed the bags and got out of the car. He took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. The doorbell rang. Katie was on the sofa, nursing one of the twins. The other was sleeping in the makeshift crib nearby, a cardboard box lined with soft blankets. She looked at the door, frowning. She wasn't expecting anyone. She never expected anyone. She carefully put the baby on her shoulder, adjusting the cloth covering them both, and stood up slowly so as not to wake the other one. She went to the door, looked through the small, foggy peephole. Dylan. She paused. Her heart sped up for no apparent reason. What was he doing here? He had already helped. He had already done more than he should have. Why would he come back? Katie opened the door slowly, just a crack. Hi. Her voice came out cautious, protective. Dylan was standing on the cracked concrete step, holding 3 large grocery bags. He looked different today, less formal. Faded jeans, a simple t-shirt, a plain jacket. None of that executive look she had seen before. More normal, more approachable. Hi, he replied with a slightly awkward smile. I brought a few things. Katie looked at the bags, heavy by the way he was holding them. Then she looked back at him. Suspicion returned to her eyes like a natural reflex. Why? The question came out harsher than she intended, but she needed to know. Men didn't do things like this without expecting something in return. She had learned that the hard way. Dylan hesitated, shifted his weight from one leg to the other. He knew the question was coming, but he didn't have an answer that didn't sound strange or invasive. I thought you might need them. The silence stretched between them, heavy. Katie held the baby tighter against her chest, like a living shield. She didn't know what to think, didn't know if she should trust him. All her experience screamed at her to close the door, but something about him was different. Something in the way he looked at her, without judgment, without pity, just care. "Look, I don't want anything in return," Dylan said quickly, as if reading her mind. "I just wanted to help. If you don't want them, that's fine. I'll leave them here on the doorstep and go. No problem." Katie studied his face, searching for lies, searching for ulterior motives, searching for the catch. But she only found sincerity. The same sincerity from when he had stopped on the street that day. She took a deep breath, made a decision. "Come in." She opened the door completely, stepping aside to give him space. Dylan entered slowly, as if he didn't want to intrude. He carried the bags carefully. The place was small, very small, probably the size of his closet. The living room and kitchen were practically the same space, separated only by a low counter. An old faded sofa took up the main wall, with a threadbare blanket thrown over it, trying to hide the rips in the upholstery. An old TV rested on a wooden box that had once been a fruit crate. A worn-out rug covered part of the cold floor, but it was clean. Surprisingly clean. Everything was as tidy as possible. The baby's clothes were drying on a makeshift clothesline near the window, organized by size. The few washed dishes were draining by the sink in a neat order. The floor was swept. There was no dust in the corners. There was dignity here, in the effort, in the care, in the attempt to make this place something better than it was. Katie closed the door, the lock making a familiar click. "You can put those there." She pointed to the small counter separating the kitchen from the living room. Dylan placed the bags down carefully, avoiding making noise. Katie approached, still holding the baby against her chest. She was rocking with the automatic rhythm that every mother's body learns. The baby had gone back to sleep, her little mouth half open. Katie looked inside the bags. Her eyes widened progressively with every item she saw. Rice, beans, pasta, oil, sugar, coffee, diapers, a large pack, one of the expensive ones, formula, 2 large cans, fresh fruit, apples, bananas, oranges, soap, toothpaste, shampoo, things she hadn't bought in weeks. Months, for some of them. Things she rationed down to the last drop. Things she had given up on having. "This is..." Her voice failed her, caught in her throat. "It's too much." "It's not." Dylan shook his head, hands in his pockets. "It's the basics. Everyone needs the basics." Katie kept looking. She picked up an apple. Red, shiny, perfect. When was the last time she had eaten a fresh piece of fruit? Her hands trembled slightly. She blinked fast, fighting the tears that threatened to fall and that she refused to let escape. "Thank you." It was all she could manage to say. Her voice was just a thread. The baby in her arms started to fuss, that little sound that comes before a cry. Katie adjusted her immediately, doing that instinctive, automatic bounce that every mother develops. The fussing stopped before it turned into a full-blown cry. "Can I sit?" Dylan asked, gesturing to the sofa. Katie looked at him, genuinely surprised. She hadn't expected him to want to stay. She thought he would drop the stuff and leave. That it was just another quick act of charity to ease his conscience. Sure. He sat on one end of the sofa. Katie quickly put away some of the items from the bags, the things that needed refrigeration, and then sat on the other end, keeping her distance. Still bouncing the baby, always bouncing. She wasn't sure what to do now. She wasn't used to having visitors. She didn't know how to act, what to talk about, whether she should offer something she didn't have. "How are you?" Dylan asked, breaking the silence. The question was simple, common, the kind people ask, without really wanting to know the answer. But the way he asked was different. He was actually waiting. He wanted to know, and no one ever asked her that. No one really cared. "Tired," Katie answered honestly, no filter, not trying to seem strong. "But I'm managing." Dylan looked at the baby in her arms. Her light eyes were closed now, blonde eyelashes resting on her rosy cheeks. Her lips made little sucking motions in her sleep, as if she were still nursing. "They're beautiful." It wasn't said out of politeness. It was sincere, Katie could tell. Katie smiled. It was a small, tired smile, but genuinely proud. "They are," she agreed, looking at her daughter with a softness on her face that she didn't show anyone else. "They're my everything." "How do you do it?" Dylan asked, leaning forward slightly. "Alone, I mean." Katie shrugged. A simple gesture that carried the weight of the world. "I just do it. There's no other option. They need me. So I get up, I take care of them, I keep going, because that's what moms do." "Their father is not in the picture," Katie cut him off, her voice immediately hardening. Her back stiffened. "Never was. He disappeared when he found out it was twins." "Said he didn't sign up for that." Dylan nodded slowly. He saw the quick flash of pain in her eyes, realized it was a sore subject, still raw. He didn't push. He didn't ask any more questions about it. "And your family?" Katie looked toward the window, at the clothesline with the little outfit swaying slightly in the breeze coming through the crack. "Thomason, they don't talk to me anymore." Her voice became distant, empty, as if she were talking about strangers. "They thought I made the wrong choice, that I should have—" She stopped, breathed, shook her head. "It doesn't matter. I chose them, and I don't regret it for a second." Dylan stayed silent. He didn't fill the space with empty words. He didn't say, "I'm sorry," automatically. He didn't offer unsolicited advice. He didn't try to fix what couldn't be fixed. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep. He was just there, present, really listening. And Katie noticed that. She noticed the difference. She realized he wasn't trying to save her like some charity project. He wasn't there out of pity. He wasn't trying to feel better about himself. He was there because he wanted to be, because he chose to be. She allowed herself to relax, just a little. Her shoulders dropped slightly. "And you?" Katie asked, turning to face him. "Why are you really here?" Dylan ran a hand through his hair, messing up the strands. A nervous gesture she noticed he made when he was uncomfortable. "I don't know how to explain it." He was honest, brutally honest. "But after I saw you on the street, I couldn't stop thinking. Not about you needing help, but about how strong you are. How you keep going even when everything seems impossible. How you didn't give up." Katie stared at him, surprised. "I'm not strong, I just don't have a choice." "That is strength," Dylan insisted, leaning in more. "The greatest strength there is. You didn't give up. You didn't let them go hungry. You didn't beg for money. You tried to sell the only thing you had to get what they needed. You do the impossible every day just because it has to be done. That's the definition of strength." Katie didn't know what to say. The words got stuck in her throat. No one had ever seen it that way. Everyone else just saw failure. A single mother, young, poor, no future, no hope. But he saw strength. He saw value. He saw something she herself had forgotten was there. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "For saying that, for seeing that." They kept talking about small things, about the routine with the babies, the sleepless nights, the feeding schedules, the endless diapers, about the neighborhood, about nothing too deep. But it was comfortable, natural, as if they had known each other longer. And as they talked, Dylan noticed things. Little details that needed attention. The kitchen light flickering intermittently, threatening to go out. The faucet in the sink dripping at a constant, annoying rhythm. Drip, drip, drip. The doorknob slightly loose, rattling when touched. "Do you have any tools here?" he asked suddenly, in the middle of a sentence about something else. Katie blinked, confused by the change of subject. "Why?" "That faucet is dripping," he pointed, "and the light bulb is bad. I can fix that if you want." Katie hesitated. Her first reaction was to refuse. He had already done too much. "You don't have to." "I know." Dylan stood up, already decided. "But I want to. Will you let me do this?" She studied him for a moment. Then she sighed and pointed to a small cabinet under the sink. "There's some stuff in there. I don't know if it's any good." Dylan opened the cabinet. He found an old box with basic tools, a screwdriver with a cracked handle, a rusty pair of pliers, a small wrench. They weren't the best tools, far from it. But they would work. He started with the faucet. Katie watched from the living room, still holding the baby. She found it strange, surreal. Men didn't do this. They didn't fix things without expecting something in return. They didn't kneel on the dirty kitchen floor messing with old plumbing, but he was there, focused, tightening, adjusting, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, as if he genuinely cared. The dripping stopped. Blessed silence. Dylan smiled, satisfied with his work. He stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans, and grabbed a new light bulb from one of the bags. He had thought of everything. He replaced the flickering bulb. The light stopped flickering immediately, illuminating the space with a steady, clear light for the first time in months. "There," he said, wiping his hands on a dish towel that was lying there. Katie looked around. The kitchen seemed different, more functional, more cared for, more like a home. "Thank you," she said again. "I know I say that a lot, but—" "Thank you. You don't have to thank me every time." Dylan smiled, genuinely. "It's just a faucet and a light bulb." "It's not just a faucet," Katie replied, serious now, her eyes fixed on him. "It's more than anyone has done for me in a long time." The weight of those words hung in the air. Dylan felt something tighten in his chest, sadness, anger, not at her, but at a world where fixing a faucet was considered extraordinary. He didn't know what to reply, so he just nodded. In the following days, he came back. Not every day. He didn't want to smother her or seem invasive, but a few times a week, always with some excuse. He brought more diapers when he noticed they were running low. He fixed the loose doorknob. He replaced an outlet that was sparking. He hung a picture that had been leaning against the wall for months. Katie started to look forward to his visits. Not that she would admit it out loud, not even to herself, but she noticed that the days he showed up were different, lighter, less lonely, less heavy. One Thursday afternoon, she made coffee. A simple coffee, made in an old cloth filter. But it was what she had, and she wanted to give back somehow. "Want some coffee?" she offered, a little shyly. Dylan was on the living room floor, lying on his stomach, playing with the twins. They were awake, lying on the rug on top of a blanket, kicking their chubby legs and making random sounds that were almost laughs. He was making exaggerated faces, and they were reacting, their light eyes following his every move with fascination. "I'd love some," he replied, getting up with a smile. They sat at the tiny kitchen table, two uncomfortable, mismatched stools, two cracked, mismatched mugs, black coffee, strong and hot. "Oh, sorry about the mug," Katie said, a bit embarrassed, looking at the cracks. "I don't have anything better." "It's perfect." Dylan took a sip, and it was true, not because the coffee was exceptional, but because the moment was. The faucet wasn't dripping. The light bulb worked steadily. The babies were making happy sounds in the living room. And they were there, drinking coffee, talking about nothing and everything at the same time. The barrier that had existed between them was crumbling, brick by brick, word by word, shared silence by shared silence. And in that simple, pleasant, quiet moment, something changed. They weren't strangers anymore. They were something more. Something that was just beginning to take shape. Dylan looked at the car's dashboard clock, 4:30 in the afternoon. Normally, he wouldn't even think about leaving the office before 7. Sometimes 8. There was always one more meeting, one more report, one more decision waiting. The work never ended, but today he shut down his computer at 4, grabbed his coat. He ignored his secretary's surprised look. "Leaving early today, Mr. Reed. I have an appointment," was all he said. It wasn't a lie. He did have an appointment, just not the kind she was imagining. Traffic was lighter at this hour. He knew the way by heart now, didn't need the GPS anymore. Left at the second light, right after the intersection, straight for 3 blocks. He parked in front of the house, grabbed the bag from the back seat. He'd stopped by the grocery store on the way, buying things he'd noticed were missing on his last visit. Juice, crackers, more diapers, always diapers. He rang the bell. Katie opened the door almost immediately, as if she had been waiting. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. and Dylan felt something warm spread through his chest. "You're early today," she said, making room for him to enter. "Managed to get out early," he came in, setting the bag on the counter. "How was your day?" Katie closed the door and sighed. "Long. Lily was fussy all night. I think she's teething." "I barely slept." Dylan looked at her. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was thrown up carelessly. Her clothes were wrinkled, but even so, there was something about her, a tired beauty, a quiet strength that left him speechless. "Where are they?" "Napping," Katie pointed to the bedroom. "Finally, enjoy the quiet while it lasts." Dylan smiled. He had learned to value these moments of silence. The visits had started as something sporadic, but in recent weeks they had become constant. 3 times a week, then 4. Now, almost every day. He couldn't stay away. They sat on the sofa. Katie curled up in a corner, pulling her legs up under her. She looked smaller that way, more vulnerable. "Oh, do you want coffee?" she offered, already starting to get up. "Stay." Dylan gently touched her arm. "You need to rest." Katie hesitated, but sat back down. She didn't have the energy to argue. "How was your day?" she asked. Dylan shrugged. "Normal. Meetings. Numbers. More meetings." He paused. "Nothing that really matters." Katie tilted her head. "You don't like what you do you?" The question caught him off guard. No one ever asked that. People just assumed he loved the work, the success, the power, the money. "No," he admitted, for the first time out loud, "I don't." "Then why do you do it?" "Because it's what's expected of me." Dylan looked at his own hands. "My father built the company from scratch. It was always the plan for me to take over. Continue the legacy. It's not a choice, it's an obligation." Katie was silent for a moment, processing. "That sounds lonely." Dylan looked at her, at the way she was watching him. No judgment, just understanding. "It is," he confessed. "It's very lonely." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that happens when 2 people understand each other without needing words. From the bedroom, one of the babies started to whimper. Katie stood up immediately, but Dylan was faster. "I'll go," he said. Katie looked at him, surprised, but nodded. Dylan went into the bedroom. It was tiny. It barely fit the 2 makeshift cribs and a small dresser. But there was something cozy about it. Children's drawings taped to the wall, a handmade mobile hanging from the ceiling, love in every detail. Emma was awake, her light eyes staring at the ceiling. When she saw Dylan, her face lit up. A toothless grin appeared. She reached her little arms out to him. Dylan felt his heart clench. He lifted the baby into his arms. She was so small, so fragile, but the way she snuggled against him, trusting, safe, made something inside him break and rebuild itself at the same time. "Hi, little one," he whispered, rocking her gently. Emma grabbed his finger with her tiny hand. She squeezed with disproportional strength and didn't let go. Lily was still sleeping in the next crib, curled up in a blanket, her blonde curls spread out on the pillow. Dylan stood there for a moment, just watching. These 2 little girls had changed everything, without knowing it, without trying. They had changed him. He returned to the living room with Emma in his arms. Katie smiled when she saw them. "She adores you. The feeling is mutual." Dylan sat back on the sofa, adjusting Emma to be more comfortable. The baby played with the button on his shirt, fascinated. She made random sounds, meaningless babbles that, to Dylan, were the most important thing in the world. Katie watched them. There was something in her gaze, something soft, something like hope. "So you're good with them," she said quietly. "They're easy to love." The words came out before he could filter them. There was a pause. Dylan realized what he had said. Love. He had said love, but it wasn't a lie. Katie looked away, but he saw the blush rising in her cheeks. "Dylan," she started, but didn't know how to continue. "I know." He cut her off gently. I know this is all strange. I know I just showed up in your life out of nowhere, but... He looked at Emma, then at Katie. I can't stay away. I don't want to stay away. Katie bit her lip, fighting some internal battle. Why? Her voice came out vulnerable. Why do you care so much? Dylan took a deep breath. It was time to be honest, completely honest. My mother, he began, his voice growing quieter. She died when I was 8. Cancer, it was fast. Brutal. One day she was there, the next, she wasn't. Katie moved closer, her attention fully on him. She was the only one who really understood me, Dylan continued, his eyes fixed on the baby in his lap, but his mind elsewhere. Another time. Who saw who I was, not what I had, not the last name, not the money, just me. She cared about people, about the right things, always helping someone, always making a difference. His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. My father, he never got over it. He became cold, distant. He buried his grief in his work, and he buried me along with it. I grew up in a house full of expensive things and empty of everything that matters. Katie reached out and touched his knee, a light touch, comforting, present. I miss her so much, Dylan confessed, finally looking at Katie. His eyes were damp. Every day. And when I saw you on that street, fighting, surviving, loving these girls with everything you have, I saw her. I saw the kind of person she was, the kind of person I wanted to be. The tears finally fell. Silent. Dylan didn't try to hide them. Not here. Not with her. Katie moved closer, rested her head on his shoulder. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She was just there. Emma, sensing the change in energy, looked up. She touched Dylan's wet face with her tiny hand. As if she were saying it was okay. She would be proud of you, Katie whispered, for the person you are, not for the company or the money, but for you being here, for caring, for choosing love when it's easier to choose indifference. Dylan looked at her, at the way she was watching him, with acceptance, with understanding, with something deeper that he couldn't name yet. Thank you, he said, his voice hoarse, for letting me be here, for letting me be a part of this. Katie smiled, a teary smile she didn't realize had formed. Thank you for wanting to be, she replied. They stayed like that for a while, Dylan holding Emma, Katie leaning against him. 3 people, wounded in different ways, finding comfort in each other. I've never told anyone about my mum, Dylan admitted. Not like this, not really. I've never told anyone that I'm scared, Katie replied, her voice breaking. Scared of failing, scared of not being enough for them, scared of waking up one day and realizing I can't do it anymore. You won't fail, Dylan said with absolute certainty. You're the strongest person I know. I don't feel strong, Katie confessed. I feel lost all the time. Strength isn't about not being afraid. Dylan turned to face her. It's about being afraid and keeping going anyway. That's what you do. Every single day. Katie closed her eyes, letting the words sink in, believing them, perhaps for the first time. From the bedroom, Lily started to cry, but it wasn't a cry of hunger or a dirty diaper. It was a cry of discomfort, of agitation. Katie stood up quickly, followed by Dylan still holding Emma. Lily was sitting up in her crib, crying inconsolably. Her little face was red, her hands clenched. Katie picked her up, trying to calm her, but the crying only got louder. Hey, it's okay. Katie bounced, hummed, did everything that always worked. But it didn't work. Lily thrashed, her shrill cry filling the small space. Emma started to get restless in Dylan's arms, reacting to her sister's cry. Let me try, Dylan offered. Katie hesitated. Lily was inconsolable. She didn't want to hand her over like this, but she was exhausted, and Dylan was offering. She passed the baby over. Lily cried louder for the first second, but then Dylan started to walk. Slow steps, a steady rhythm, rocking gently, humming a tune he didn't even know where it came from. Maybe something his mother used to sing, maybe something new. Gradually the crying subsided. It turned into sobs. Then silence. Lily rested her head on his shoulder. Her fingers gripped his shirt. Her body relaxed completely, and then she slept. Dylan stopped walking, froze. He looked at Katie with an expression of pure astonishment. Katie had her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide. Katie started. She never calms down like that. Never with anyone but me. Dylan looked at the baby in his arms, at the way she trusted him, the way she chose him as a refuge. Something changed in that moment, something definitive, irreversible. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He wasn't just someone who helped out now and then. He was part of this, part of them, part of the family that was forming without any of them fully realizing it. Katie moved closer. She looked at Lily sleeping peacefully. Then she looked at Dylan, and there were tears in her eyes again. But this time they were different. "You're special to them," she whispered. "To us." Dylan couldn't answer. He just nodded. Because if he tried to speak, he would fall apart. They stood there, Dylan holding the sleeping Lily, Katie beside him, Emma finally dozing off too. 4 people in a tiny room, 4 hearts beating in sync. And for the first time in years, Dylan felt like he was home. Not in a house with expensive walls and designer furniture, but in a home, a place where he was seen, where he was needed, where he was loved, a place where he finally belonged. Dylan was in the conference room. The long, polished mahogany table reflected the ceiling lights. 8 executives sat around it, all in impeccable suits, charts projected on the wall. A $20 million acquisition being discussed. He should have been paying attention. It was the most important meeting of the quarter. Months of negotiation culminating this morning. But his phone vibrated in his pocket. Dylan ignored it, kept looking at the papers in front of him, pretending to read the numbers. It vibrated again. He frowned. Who calls twice in a row? He discreetly pulled his phone out under the table. Katie. His heart hammered. She never called. She always waited for him to show up. Something was wrong. "Excuse me." Dylan stood up, interrupting the CFO mid-sentence. Everyone looked at him. "I need to take this." He was already walking out of the room before anyone could protest. He answered in the hallway. "Katie!" Her voice came out trembling, desperate. "Dylan, I'm sorry to call like this, but I don't know what to do." She was crying. "Lily is burning up. She has a really high fever. I gave her medicine, but it's not coming down. She's moaning. Dylan, I've never seen her like this." Dylan was already walking to the elevator. "What's her temperature?" 103. "It's climbing. I don't have a car. I don't have money for a cab. I don't know. I'm on my way." Dylan jammed the elevator button. "Stay calm. I'll be there in 15 minutes. We'll take her to the hospital." "Dylan, you don't have to. Your meeting." "Forget the meeting." He stepped into the elevator. "And I'm coming. Wait for me." He hung up. The elevator was moving too slowly. He pressed the lobby button several times, as if that would make a difference. His phone rang, the company's number. He ignored it. It rang again. His father. Dylan answered as he ran through the parking garage. "Where do you think you're going?" His father's voice was pure ice. "Get back in that room, now." "I can't." Dylan unlocked his car. "I have an emergency. The only emergency here is you throwing months of work in the trash. These investors won't wait. If you leave now, then they won't wait." Dylan started the car. "I have to go." "It's that woman, isn't it?" The disdain in his voice was palpable. "That single mother you've been visiting. You're throwing your career away for some—" "Careful." Dylan cut him off, his voice dangerously low. "Be very careful what you're about to say." "You're pathetic," his father spat. "Your mother would be ashamed." Something broke inside Dylan, not from pain but from clarity. "No," he said, calm now. "My mother would be proud, because I'm choosing to be human." "Something you forgot how to be." He hung up before his father could reply. He drove faster than he should have. Morning traffic was heavy. But he weaved between cars, angry horns blaring behind him. 15 minutes turned into 12. He parked crookedly in front of her house, ran out, rang the bell, and banged on the door at the same time. Katie opened it immediately. Her face was pale, wet with tears. Lily was in her arms, wrapped in a blanket, her little face red and sweaty. "She's getting worse," Katie sobbed. "Dylan, I'm so scared." "Let's go. Now!" He quickly grabbed Emma from the crib, the other baby startled by all the commotion. "Car seat. I don't have one. I've never had a car. It's okay. You'll ride in the back with them. Hold them tight." They ran to the car. Katie got in the back seat, holding Lily against her chest, Emma in her other arm. Dylan fastened the seatbelts around them as best he could. He drove to the nearest hospital. Katie gave directions between sobs. Every moan from Lily was a stab in both their hearts. "Hang on, baby," Katie whispered to her daughter. "Mommy's here. It's okay. We're getting you help." Dylan watched in the rearview mirror. He saw Katie falling apart. He saw the baby suffering, and he felt an urgency he had never felt before, not in business, not for money, for something that actually mattered. They reached the hospital in 7 minutes. Dylan parked at the emergency entrance, not even caring if it was allowed. He helped Katie get out with both babies. They ran to the reception desk. "My daughter," Katie could barely speak. "High fever, very high, please." The receptionist looked at Lily, saw the child's condition, and called someone immediately. A nurse appeared with a small gurney. She took Lily from Katie's arms, took her temperature right there. 104, she said. "Serious. We're taking her back now." "I'm going with her," Katie tried to follow. "Ma'am, you'll need to fill out the registration first." The receptionist blocked her. "Dad, we have protocol." "I'll do the registration," Dylan intervened, placing a hand on Katie's back. "She goes with her daughter. Send all the paperwork to me." The receptionist was about to protest, but something in his gaze made her stop. "Name of the financially responsible party?" "Dylan Reed," he said. "You can put down a corporate card, whatever you need." "Just let her go." The woman nodded. Katie looked at Dylan, tears streaming. "Emma?" She looked at the baby in his arms. "I've got her. Go. Be with Lily." Katie hesitated for only a second before running after the nurse, who was already taking Lily toward the back. Dylan stood there, holding Emma, in the middle of the emergency room hallway, people passing by. Voices everywhere, but it all seemed distant. Emma looked up at him with those clear eyes, confused, looking for her mum, looking for her sister. "It's okay, little one," Dylan whispered, kissing her forehead. "Your sister is going to be fine. I promise." He filled out all the forms, gave all the information, authorized all the procedures, signed everything they put in front of him without reading it. Then he sat in the waiting room, Emma in his lap, watching the hallway, waiting. Half an hour passed, an hour. Dylan paced back and forth, rocking Emma, who was starting to get hungry. He had grabbed Katie's diaper bag, found a bottle, fed the baby right there, sitting in an uncomfortable plastic chair. Finally, Katie appeared. Her eyes were red, but her face was less tense. "She's stable," Katie said, her voice hoarse. "The fever's down. It was an infection. They gave her antibiotics. They want to keep her for observation for a few hours." Dylan stood up, Emma still in his arms. "Do you want to go back to her? I'll stay with Emma." Katie looked at him. Really looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. "You dropped everything," she said quietly. "Your meeting, your job. You dropped everything and came." "Of course I did," Dylan replied, as if it were obvious. "You needed me." "But that meeting, you said it was important." "It was," Dylan agreed. "But not more important than this." "Not more important than you." Katie broke down, not in despair, but in relief, in gratitude, in something deeper. She hugged him. Emma squeezed between them. She cried on his shoulder, crying out all the fear, all the panic, all the loneliness of always doing everything alone. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for answering. Thank you for coming. I couldn't have done it alone." Dylan held her with his free arm, squeezed her tight. "You're not alone," he said against her hair. "Not anymore. I'm here. I'll always be here." They stayed like that until Emma complained about being squished. They laughed through their tears. "I'm going back to Lily." Katie wiped her face. "Are you sure you're okay? You can go to work if you need to, I understand." Dylan shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together." Katie nodded. went back to the room where Lily was. Dylan sat down again in the waiting room, cradling Emma until she fell asleep. He looked around at the busy hospital, at the worried people, at the families waiting for news, and he realized that this was family, not of blood, but of choice, of being present when it mattered, of showing up when called, of dropping everything because someone needed you. His phone buzzed several times. Messages from the company, from his father, veiled threats, expressed disappointment. Dylan turned his phone off. For the first time in his life, he knew exactly where he was supposed to be, and it was right here. Dylan got home late that night. Lily had been kept for observation for 6 hours. When they finally discharged her, he drove Katie and the girls back. He helped get everything settled, waited until he was sure they were okay. Only then did he leave. He was exhausted. But it was a different kind of tired, not empty, full of purpose. He opened the door to his apartment. The lights were on. He paused. He always left everything off. "You're late." The voice came from the living room. Dylan closed his eyes for a second, took a deep breath, then walked in. His father was sitting on his sofa. Impeccable suit, even at this hour. Straight posture, hard face, a glass of whiskey in his hand, probably from Dylan's bar. "Dad." Dylan dropped his keys on the counter. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see if my son had come to his senses." Richard Reed took a sip. "Apparently not." Dylan ran a hand over his face. He didn't have the energy for this. "Now is not the time." "When is the time, Dylan?" His father stood up. "When are you going to stop this nonsense and get back to work?" "I was working, until this morning. Until you abandoned the most important meeting of the year." Richard took a step forward. "Do you know how much money we lost, how much time we wasted? The investors backed out. Said they don't do business with a company that doesn't take its commitments seriously." Dylan took off his jacket and threw it on a chair. "I had an emergency." "An emergency?" His father laughed, a humorless sound. "Some random woman calls, and you come running like an obedient dog." "Careful." Dylan turned to face him. "I already told you to be careful." "About what?" "The truth." Richard slammed the glass down on the table. "You're throwing everything away for a woman you barely know, a single mother with 2 kids that aren't even yours. Do you think she cares about you, or just about your money?" Dylan clenched his fists. He felt the anger rising. "You don't know her." "I don't need to. I've seen this movie before. Desperate women looking for a savior." His father crossed his arms. "She saw a rich idiot and took advantage, and you fell for it like a fool." "She never asked for anything," Dylan shot back, his voice rising. "Never. She barely accepts help. She has more pride and dignity than anyone in that damn company." "Pride?" Richard laughed again. "She lives in a shack. She doesn't have a penny to her name. What kind of pride is that? The pride of not giving up, of waking up every day and fighting for her daughters, even when everything seems impossible, of not selling out, of not bowing down." Dylan took a step forward. "Things you don't understand because you've never had to fight for anything." His father's face hardened. "I built an empire from nothing." "You built a company," Dylan corrected. "It's not the same thing, and in the process you lost everything that mattered, including yourself." Richard was silent for a moment. His eyes narrowed. "This is about your mother, isn't it?" Dylan froze. Don't bring her into this. You think you're just like her," his father continued, ignoring the warning. "You think if you help lost causes, you'll become the saint she was. But you're not her, Dylan. You're my son. You're a Reed. You have responsibilities." "She wasn't a saint," Dylan said quietly, dangerously low. "She was human. She was kind. She cared. Things you killed inside yourself when she died." "I did what I had to do. I survived. I raised you. I gave you everything." "You gave me money," Dylan retorted. "You didn't give me love. You didn't give me attention. You didn't give me anything that mattered. When she died, you buried any part of yourself that knew how to love. And you tried to do the same to me." Richard took a threatening step. How dare you?" But it didn't work. Dylan didn't back down. "Because today, in that hospital, holding that baby, watching that woman fight for her daughter, I felt something. I felt like I mattered, like I was making a difference, that I was there because they needed me, not my money. Me. How sweet. The sarcasm was dripping. And when she gets tired of you, when she finds someone better, are you going to come crawling back to the company you spit on? Dylan shook his head, slowly. Finally, understanding. You don't get it, and you never will, because you forgot what it's like to feel something real, what it's like to be with someone who sees you. Who chooses you, not for your bank account, but because you matter. Cheap philosophy doesn't pay the bills. No, Dylan agreed, but it doesn't fill the void either. You have everything, Dad, and you have nothing. You live in that huge office, in that giant house, completely alone. And you're going to die alone. Surrounded by expensive things and empty of everything that matters. Richard turned pale, his lips pressed into a thin line. Get out of my house, Dylan said. Calm now. Now. Your house. Who do you think pays for this? I do, Dylan replied. With the salary I earn working 60 hours a week at a company I hate. So yes, my house. And you're not welcome. His father grabbed his coat from the sofa, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. When you realize the mistake you've made, don't come crying back. Dylan didn't answer. Richard opened the door and left, slammed it hard. The silence that followed was deafening. Dylan just stood there, processing, feeling the weight of the words spoken, but there was no regret, no doubt. He thought of Katie, in the hospital, the way she looked at him with gratitude, with trust, with something more. He thought of Lily getting better, of Emma sleeping peacefully in his arms. He thought of how he felt useful, needed, present, and he realized his father was wrong, completely wrong. Dylan picked up his phone, looked at the unread messages, dozens of them, all from the company, all about the missed meeting, all demanding, pleading, threatening. He typed a message, short, direct. I'm taking 2 weeks off. Don't contact me. He sent it before he could overthink it. Then he blocked his father's number. He blocked the office number. He threw the phone on the sofa and went to take a shower. Under the hot water, he let the day wash away. The fear, the anger, the confrontation, and when he got out, he felt lighter. He lay down in bed, stared at the ceiling, thought of Katie again, of how strong she was even when she was breaking, of how she never gave up even when everything conspired against her. He thought about how he wanted to be there when she woke up. He wanted to make coffee. He wanted to hold the girls. He wanted to be part of it. Not because he had to be, but because he wanted to be. And for the first time, Dylan understood what his mother always used to say, that money can't buy happiness, that success doesn't fill the void. That in the end, all that matters is love. Love in whatever form it comes. And he had found it, in a strong woman pushing an old bicycle, in 2 light-eyed babies who smiled at him, in a small house that felt more like a home than any mansion ever had. Dylan closed his eyes and slept, and for the first time in years, he slept in peace. Dylan woke up early. The sun was just rising, painting the sky orange and pink through the bedroom window. He lay there for a few minutes, just thinking. The conversation with his father echoed in his head, but not with weight, with clarity. He had spent his entire life trying to be what was expected of him, the perfect son, the exemplary executive, the worthy heir. He had molded himself, suffocated himself, lost himself trying to fit into a role that was never his. But in the last few months, he had found himself in a small house, with a strong woman, with 2 light-eyed babies. He had found himself just by being himself. Dylan got up, took a shower, got dressed, but he didn't put on a suit, jeans, t-shirt, a comfortable jacket. The clothes of who he really was. He looked around the apartment, expensive furniture, flawless decor, everything in its place, everything lifeless. This had never been a home. It was just a place where he slept between commitments. He knew what he had to do. He grabbed his keys and left. The morning was crisp. The traffic was still light. Dylan drove on autopilot. The path etched on his heart now. He didn't need to think. The car knew where to go. He stopped at a bakery on the way, He bought fresh bread, croissants, orange juice, coffee. He wanted to bring them breakfast. When he arrived at Katie's house, it was 7 in the morning, early, but he knew she would be awake. Mothers with babies always were. He rang the bell. Katie opened the door with one of the twins on her hip. Lily, he recognized by her pink pajamas. She was in an old bathrobe, hair messy, eyes still swollen with sleep, beautiful in the most real way possible. "Dylan?" She blinked, surprised. "Is everything okay? Did something happen?" "Everything's fine." He held up the bag. "I brought breakfast." Her face lit up, that smile that made his chest ache. "Come in. You're early today." He entered. Emma was in her crib, still sleeping. The house smelled like baby powder and old coffee. Normal sounds, normal smells, real life happening. Katie put Lily on the rug with some toys and helped Dylan put everything on the table. "You didn't have to," she said, but her eyes shone as she saw the fresh bread. "But thank you, seriously." They sat down to eat. Katie devoured a croissant as if she hadn't eaten in days. Her breakfast was probably usually reheated leftovers. "How's Lily?" Dylan asked. "Much better. The fever didn't come back." "She's great." Katie looked at her daughter playing on the floor. "Thanks to you. It wasn't just me." "Yes, it was." Katie faced him. "If you hadn't come, I don't know what I would have done. I was so scared, Dylan. So lost." "You're never lost." He took her hand across the table. "You always know what to do. You're the strongest person I know." Katie laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. "I don't feel strong." "But you are." Dylan squeezed her hand. "And I need to tell you something." His tone changed, became serious. Katie noticed. She put the croissant back on her plate. "Is everything okay? Your father? Yesterday you said I talked to him." "Last night," Dylan confirmed. "He was at my apartment when I got home. It was difficult, but necessary." Katie waited in silence, letting him speak in his own time. "He said things about you, about us. Horrible things." Dylan shook his head. "But while he was talking, I realized something, that he's empty. He has everything and nothing, and I was becoming him. Living a life that wasn't mine, following a script written by someone else." He paused, took a deep breath. "But then I met you." His eyes met hers. "And everything changed. You showed me what's real, what matters. You showed me I could be more than the last name, more than the company, more than the expectations." Katie was holding her breath. "These last few months have been the best of my life," Dylan continued. "Not because of deals closed or money earned, but because of this. Being here, with you, with the girls, fixing faucets, drinking bad coffee, playing on the floor, simple things that make me feel alive." He stood up, stood in front of her. Katie stood up too, her heart racing. "Dylan, Katie, I don't want to be just a friend who helps anymore." The words came out firm, decisive. "I want to build a family with you, with the three of you. I want to build a life by your side." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Lily stopped playing, as if she sensed the importance of the moment. Katie was frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, processing the words she had just heard. "You—" Her voice failed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you," Dylan said without hesitation. "I love you. I love the girls. I love this life we've built together without even realizing it. And I don't want this to be temporary. I don't want to be a visitor. I want to be family." The tears started to fall. Katie brought her hands to her face, trying to stop them, but she couldn't. "Dylan, you don't know what you're saying. You have a life, a career, a future. I can't. We can't tie you down like this." "You're not tying me down." He cupped her face. "You're setting me free. You're giving me the chance to be who I always wanted to be. A man who matters. Not because he has money, but because he's chosen, because he's loved. But your family, what's your father?" "My family is you," Dylan said with absolute certainty. "If he doesn't accept it, that's his problem. I choose you, every day, every hour." without a doubt. Katy sobbed. The words she never imagined she'd hear, the life she never imagined she'd have. It was right here, being offered, real, concrete. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Because if you change your mind later, I don't know if I can take it." "They can't take it. We've already lost too many people." "I'm not going anywhere," Dylan promised. "You can test me. You can doubt me. You can be scared. But I will prove every single day that I'm for real. That this is forever." Katy looked at him, at the man who appeared out of nowhere, who stopped when no one else would, who stayed when no one else did, who loved her when she thought she didn't deserve to be loved. "Yes," the word came out in a whisper. "Yes, Dylan, yes." He pulled her into a hug, tight, desperate, relieved. Katy cried against his chest. Not from sadness, but from hope, from a future, from love. Lily started crying too, sensing the emotion in the air. Dylan bent down, scooping her up into the hug with Katy, the three of them there, united. Emma woke up with the noise, started to fuss in her crib. Katy went to get her, laughing through her tears. Dylan held Lily. And there, in the small living room of that simple house, they were a family. "When?" Katy asked later, when the tears had stopped. "When do you want to do this?" "Now," Dylan answered without hesitation. "Today, tomorrow, as soon as possible. I want to wake up with you. I want to go to sleep knowing you're safe. I want to be present for everything. Every moment." Katy laughed, a light, happy laugh. "You're crazy. For you, completely." They spent the day planning. Dylan called a moving company, bought boxes, started packing up her things. It wasn't much, but every object had a history, had value. Katy kept watching him carefully fold the girls' tiny clothes, wrap the few dishes she had, organize the toys. "You don't have to do this," she said. "We can hire someone." "I want to do it," Dylan smiled at her. "I want to be part of everything, even the boring parts." It took 2 days to organize everything. Dylan assembled the cribs in his apartment, now their apartment. He bought a changing table, a dresser, high chairs. He transformed the empty spare room into a nursery. He bought a bigger bed, new bedding, soft blankets. He wanted Katy to feel at home from the very first moment. On the 3rd day, everything was ready. Dylan drove to her house for the last time as a visitor. He helped put the last boxes in the car. Katy took one last look around the house. "I spent so much time here," she said quietly. "Good times and bad. This is where I learned to be a mother, where I learned to survive." Dylan hugged her from behind. "And now you're going to learn to live, really live." She turned in his arms. "Thank you for everything, for seeing me, for choosing them. Thank you for letting me," he kissed her forehead, "for trusting me, for giving me this chance." They got in the car, the twins in their new car seats in the back, the boxes in the trunk. The drive was quiet, but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of people heading home. Dylan pulled into his building's garage. He got Emma, Katy got Lily. They went up to the 23rd floor. He opened the door, let Katy enter first. She stopped in the entryway, looking around. The apartment looked different. There were toys scattered about, baby pictures on the walls, colors, life. "You did all this?" she asked, her voice thick. "I wanted you to feel at home from day one." Katy walked slowly, taking in every detail, the care, the effort, the love in every choice. When she reached the girls' harumat, she broke down again. The cribs were assembled, each with their name embroidered on the sheet. Lily in pink, Emma in lilac, mobiles spinning gently, a moon-shaped nightlight. "Dylan," she couldn't finish the sentence. He put Emma in her crib, took Lily from Katy's arms and put her in the other one. They were both already dozing, tired from the day. Then he went back to Katy, took something from his pocket, a key, simple, gold, but it meant everything. "Welcome to our home." He placed the key in her hand, closed her fingers around it. "This is yours now. You own this place. You're not a guest, you're home." Katie looked at the key, then at him. Then at the girls sleeping in their cribs, and she understood. This wasn't charity, it wasn't pity, it wasn't a favor. It was love, it was choice, it was family. "I love you," she said for the first time. "I love you so much it's scary." Dylan smiled, that smile that was just for her. "Then we'll be scared together." He kissed her, softly. A promise, a beginning. And there, in that apartment that had become a home with 2 babies sleeping in the next room, a new life was starting. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but true. A family built in adversity, solidified in love, and destined to last. 6 months later, Dylan woke to the sound of laughter, not the annoying alarm clock, not the empty silence. Baby laughter coming from the next room. He smiled before he even opened his eyes. Katie was still asleep beside him, her blonde hair spread on the pillow, one arm draped over his chest. She was exhausted. Lily had been up 3 times in the night, teething. But even tired, even with dark circles under her eyes, she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Dylan slipped out of bed slowly, trying not to wake her. He pulled on a sweatshirt and went to the girls' room. Lily and Emma were standing in their cribs, holding onto the rails, bouncing and laughing. When they saw Dylan, their faces lit up completely. "Dada!" Emma shouted excitedly, reaching out her chubby little arms. His heart squeezed, like it always did. They had started talking about a month ago, and the first word for both of them was Dada. Dylan had cried. Katie had cried. It was one of the best days of his life. "Good morning, beautiful princesses." He picked up Emma first, covering her face in loud kisses. She giggled, that wonderful happy kid laugh. Then he picked up Lily with his other arm. "Let's let Mommy sleep a little longer, okay?" He took them both to the living room. The apartment had changed completely. Toys were scattered everywhere. Colorful drawings were stuck to the fridge with magnets. Tiny clothes were drying on a rack in the laundry area. It smelled like baby powder, warm milk, and home. Dylan prepared their bottles while the girls played on the colorful alphabet playmat. They babbled to each other, that mysterious conversation that only they perfectly understood. He sat on the floor with them after feeding them. Lily came toddling over. She had learned to walk last week, and now she never stopped. Emma was still crawling quickly, but she'd be running after her sister soon enough. "Dada ook!" Lily held up a red block as if it were the most important treasure in the world. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." Dylan took the block, pretending to be extremely impressed. She smiled proudly, her little chest puffed out. Emma crawled over to him with determination and climbed into his lap without asking. She rested her little blonde head on his chest and put her thumb in her mouth, a clear sign she was still sleepy. Dylan sat there, in the middle of the messy living room, with both girls clinging to him, and he realized that this was real happiness. It wasn't accumulated money. It wasn't professional success. It wasn't social recognition. It was this seemingly simple Sunday morning moment. Katie appeared half an hour later, still in old pajamas, hair completely messy, eyes sleepy, but smiling in that way that lit up everything around her. "Morning," she stretched, reaching her arms up. "How long did you guys let me sleep?" "Long enough for you to look less like a zombie," Dylan teased, smiling at her. "Coffee's brewing." "You're perfect, you know that." She leaned down and kissed him slowly. The girls made exaggerated "ew" sounds. Everyone laughed. Katie sat on the floor with them without ceremony. Lily immediately abandoned the blocks and went to her mum's lap. Emma stayed snuggled with Dylan. They played there, unhurried, building elaborate towers of blocks that the girls would knock down, laughing loudly, singing silly, repetitive songs, making funny faces that drew peals of laughter. The morning passed slow and perfect, the way Sundays should always pass. After lunch, spaghetti bolognese that Katie made, which was delicious, they put the girls down for their nap. The sacred afternoon nap. They went back to the living room, collapsed onto the sofa, completely exhausted. "They're getting smarter every day," Katie commented quietly, resting her head on his shoulder. "Lily is already saying short sentences." Sadadape. One water. Emma tried to climb the sofa by herself this morning. They grow up too fast. Dylan put his arm around her, pulling her closer. It feels like just yesterday I saw you with them as newborns on that cold street. Katie was quiet for a long moment, thoughtful. Then she turned to look directly at him. Do you regret it? Stopping that day? Changing everything? Turning your life upside down? Dylan looked at her. Serious? Sincere? No hesitation? Not for a single second. Do you regret letting me in? Never. Not ever. She smiled softly. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I think I'm going to wake up again, that this is all just too good to be true. That I'll be back in that small cold house all alone, not knowing how I'll get through the next day. But it's not a dream. Dylan kissed her forehead tenderly. It's real as it gets. We're real. I know. Katie sighed happily. It's just still hard to fully believe that we're here, that the girls have everything they need and more, that I don't have to worry if there will be food tomorrow, that there's someone strong beside me when I wake up scared. Dylan pulled her even closer, holding her tight. You know I was saved too, right? It wasn't just you. It wasn't just them. It was mutual. We saved each other. Katie looked at him, confusion clear on her face. What do you mean? You had everything. You have everything. I was dead inside, Dylan confessed with brutal honesty. I was living on complete autopilot, working non-stop, making money that just piled up meaninglessly, buying expensive things that didn't make me happy. And I felt absolutely nothing. It was empty, completely empty. I was living in my father's shadow, trapped by his expectations, following a path that was never mine, doing everything I was told without question, until that day I saw you on that cold sidewalk. He stroked her hair gently. You freed me from that heavy shadow. You showed me I could choose my own path, that I could be who I really am, not who they wanted me to be. Now I'm ready to live my own life, in the direction I choose. So not the one chosen for me so long ago. He smiled, truly. You have no idea how much you saved me, how much you gave back to me. Katie felt her eyes fill with warm tears, the good kind. And you have no idea what it's like to finally have a place to breathe, she whispered emotionally, to not be alone carrying everything on my back, to have someone who actually stays, who doesn't leave when things get hard or complicated, who actively chooses to be here every single day. Dylan kissed her, slowly, deeply, with all the immense, overflowing love he felt. I will always choose to be here. I will always choose the three of you, no matter what. They held each other like that until they heard the characteristic noise from the bedroom. The girls waking up from their nap. Dylan stood up first. He held out his hand to Katie. She took it with confidence, and they went together to get their daughters. The rest of the afternoon passed at a peaceful, lovely pace. They played more on the living room floor. Dylan made elaborate paper boats, which the girls loved destroying immediately, laughing. Katie read stories with funny, exaggerated voices that made everyone laugh. As the sun began to set, painting the entire sky in intense orange and soft pink through the large window, they were all sprawled on the soft rug. The girls were getting tired again, yawning. Dylan had Lily lying heavily on his chest. Katie had Emma, almost asleep, resting peacefully in her lap. Thank you, Katie said suddenly, her voice soft. For what? For everything. For stopping on that street when anyone else would have kept going. For coming back. For staying when you could have left. For choosing us against all odds. She looked around at the apartment pulsing with life. For giving us a real home. You gave me a home, Dylan corrected firmly. This was just an expensive and empty apartment before. Now it's a real home, because of the three of you. Lily whimpered softly in her sleep, almost out. Emma was already fast asleep, her cheeks pink and chubby, her blonde curls messy, perfect and loved. Katie looked at her daughters with overflowing love, then at the man beside her. The man who showed up when she needed him most, who stayed when he could have easily left, who loved her when no one else did, and she realized with clarity that they had built something rare, something true, something precious, a family that wasn't born from blood or genetics, but from conscious choice, from mutual respect, from genuine love built day by day in adversity and strengthened in the calm of a true home. "I love you," she said quietly, so as not to wake the girls. "I love you too," Dylan replied. "I love you 3 more than I thought it was humanly possible to love." The night fell completely. Dylan carefully carried Lily to her crib. Katie carried Emma to hers. They tucked them in properly, covered them with soft blankets, turned on the gentle, moon-shaped nightlight. They stood there for a moment, just watching in reverent silence. These 2 little girls who had changed absolutely everything, who brought light where there was only darkness, who created purpose where there was only emptiness, who built a family where there was only loneliness. They left the room silently, left the door ajar, went to their own room, lay down, wrapped in each other's arms in the comfortable bed. "Happy?" Dylan asked quietly in the dark. "More than I ever thought it was possible to be," Katie answered honestly. "And you?" "Complete," he said simply. "For the first time in my entire life, I feel genuinely complete." They fell asleep like that, together, entwined, in deep peace, in a true home filled with love. And in the room next door, 2 light-eyed babies slept soundly, safe, protected, loved, with a father who chose to stay, with a mother who never gave up, with a family born from the impossible. The story could have been completely different. Dylan could have driven right past on that cold street. Katie could have given up that day. The girls could have